Hello, welcome to the Citrus Garden. If you're new here, my name is Christina. This is a reading for Taurus moons, or if you have significant Taurus placements in your chart and are needing a feminine energy to work with or balance within yourself, then this reading is for you. So Taurus, let's get started. Your reading is a really interesting one. I mean, they're all interesting ones, but this one I feel like is like very clear. It is sort of it's a moon reading, meaning I am focusing on sort of feminine energies, but there's a lot of masculine energy present in your reading today, which I feel like is actually sort of like, I feel like your feminine energies are good. That's kind of how this is feeling. It feels like you're very stable and strong in your feminine energies, because you have here the Queen of Stars, which is just like the context, which is talking about clarity, meaning I feel like your feminine energy is actually very, very balanced already. And so it's kind of like there's something that you want, is kind of how this is feeling. There's something that you want to move towards. And so you have a solid foundation in terms of your feminine energy, but it's kind of like there may be like this sort of consideration of how to make an approach or how to take a specific action perhaps towards the thing that you want. It could be a person, it could be something else as well. And I feel like this reading is just wanting to clarify some of that for you. Because here, what's interesting here is that you have like the Tower, the Emperor, and the Page of Pentacles, which is interesting. Page of Pentacles I always see as sort of being like an offer to someone, right? Like making a gift, I feel like because it's coming out with the Emperor, it's like you're wanting to make some sort of gift or offering or approach or whatever this is. The Tower is coming in. Not the typical Tower, though it may be. You may be going through sort of like perhaps some sort of emotional turbulence, but it's more so coming in with all this lightning as being sort of like a lightning rod, like receiving like an idea or like some sort of new inspiration, actually, is kind of how this is feeling. Because something has grabbed your attention. And it's like whatever's happening now, if it is sort of a turbulent moment, it's kind of like this event came in order to like activate or get you to take action with the Emperor, right? And it's kind of like, I feel like you're in the deliberation phase about that right now with these three cards, the Hermit, the Ten of Pentacles, and the Eight of Cups. Hermit being like, I feel like you're in consideration. You're thinking about something, to take action towards something, because in order to take action, you would have to leave behind some aspect of your Ten of Pentacles, which is, to me, just talks about something that's already like your manifested reality, like where you are now, like your the place that you live, the community, the neighborhood, whatever it is. Whatever is in your physical environment right now. Could also be a job as well, right? So you could have like gotten a new inspiration or a new idea to go work in a different place that would be something that you desire. But it's like deliberating on it, right? The Hermit, taking things slowly, trying to consider, which is really interesting because your energy here, the first two cards to come out were the Phoenix and the Lion. So I'm actually seeing this as like kind of like the Phoenix rising, because normally I see this as kind of like the Phoenix falling, right? The Phoenix burning up. And so there could be that aspect, especially because you do have the Tower. But I feel like it's more so talking about, like, I feel like you've already gone through a significant transformation. As I said, I feel like your feminine energies are really stable and strong. And perhaps you've gone through this already in order to, like, come out as the Lion, right? Very strong. It was... Your reading today is giving me this vibe in the scene in The Lion King when Simba is about to return to Pride Rock. That's what your reading feels like. This entire reading feels like that, because there's all of this sort of, especially with these two cards coming out first, the Judgment and the Hierophant. Of course, Hierophant is your energy, right, Taurus? So it's kind of like the Judgment, meaning like there's been a call, And I feel like that's what's causing the tower. It doesn't feel like anything, well, there is. It's implied that there is some sort of like you would have to leave where you are now, right? Like Simba would have to leave that sort of oasis healing space that he was in order to make a return to his home, right? So there's something like that going on in your energy, and I feel like you're kind of at the place where you want to, right? Like it's feeling like, especially with these energies, so the lion and then the hawk, right? The hawk to me always talks about forward movement, perhaps sending a message or something like that, like just moving forward, all of this sort of fire. But then you have here the frog, where it's kind of like all of this like powerful momentum, like pushing you forward, but then the frog here looks almost like timid or tentative or perhaps shy about the approach, right? It's not as powerfully moving as like the lion would be, which is really interesting because perhaps it's like, Taurus, I feel like perhaps you're wanting to make, because all of this is like fire, right? This one's air, but it still has that sort of powerful momentum, and it's kind of like this one here, the frog is much softer. It's much of a more emotional approach, which actually feels very sweet, Taurus. But it's like it feels very sweet, because what's interesting here is that what it is that you're wanting to go towards, it feels like this. So it's like these, I'm gonna just talk about, because they all came out together. It's just like if you just look at these two, right? And of course, because it's the lamb, I feel like you're seeing this. If it's another person, it could be, but it doesn't have to be. It could be just some sort of like experience or something new, right? Something new, perhaps something that you've also not done before, or that is kind of like it would be something that you would have to learn, is kind of how I'm seeing this lamb. But it's also like the lion and the lamb, right? All of this sort of powerful kind of like opposites, but it's like you're absolutely drawn to it. And I feel like perhaps, Taurus, you're kind of like, because you're anticipating this energy, like you can, like this is the energy that you're wanting to go towards. You're seeing it as being perhaps new, or just like innocent, maybe with the lamb. If not that, it's kind of just like, it's a softer energy. It's just softer. And so coming in with the frog, right? Because both of these cards talk to me about vulnerability. The both of these are very vulnerable, especially the frog. It's like breathing through your skin, like an open exchange of like watery energy, perhaps something like that, like emotional energy, compared to but this is the driving force, is kind of how this is feeling. And what's so interesting is they're coming through with the hummingbird, which is it's so light, right? It's so light. It's very light and soft. Perhaps you're anticipating that this one might be a bit spook easily. Maybe they spook easily. Maybe that's what you're anticipating. Or the opportunity might be kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like, there's a lot of factors. There's a lot of factors that you would have to take into consideration. But it's kind of like, I feel like this energy is very much focused on you, like they can see your approach in some way, or anticipate it, because they're coming through with the dragon. Extremely powerful as well, right? They're matching your energy is kind of how it's feeling, because the dragon to me represents like ancient wisdom. It's kind of like the ability to see through all possibility, or see through things, right? They can see through things. So even if you're coming in as the frog, they can very much see through that, and not in a bad way, Taurus. Not at all that you're like sort of putting up any sort of artificial or anything like that. It's like they can just see that, they can see both like these two aspects of yourself. The fact that you are extremely powerful, but you also are coming in with this very soft and open approach, which is, I feel like it's very much appreciated, is kind of how they're seeing it. They see it and they appreciate it, is kind of what this hummingbird is coming through with. And it's like they're also with the bat, because this one talks to me about like, if you've put out a call, this one's answering. That's how I see this energy. There's some very strong connection between the two of you that's trying to bring you together in a very open and vulnerable way, is kind of how this is feeling. It's really lovely. However, of course, there's a little bit of a however here. I feel like there's kind of just like this, a little bit of anxiety on your part, because you do have the 9 of Swords coming out next. And sort of the impulse that, or like the impulse, the intuition that I was getting with for the story of your thing today, I feel like, Taurus, you've put in a lot of preparation for this, actually, is kind of how this is feeling with the frog as well, right? Feels like preparation or like practice or consideration, right? It's kind of like, it just feels like preparation. I don't know what that means for you. Like perhaps just preparing yourself or preparing a space, or like there's been a lot of time put into this, is kind of how this is feeling. And it's so interesting because I feel like you're the Knight of Wands, right? All of this sort of fiery momentum towards the Page of Wands. So, but it's kind of like their energy feels a bit more like, I don't want to say coy, but it kind of feels like that, a bit more coy, or a bit more kind of like elusive maybe. But it's like you do absolutely have, like, you have the 6 of Pentacles, which is talking about an equal exchange, right? An equal exchange of energy, whatever that is. And it feels very reciprocal for whatever this thing is, if that's what you're worried about. And the Ace of Swords, meaning you already know the truth. You already know how this approach is going to happen. It is going to be very smooth, I feel like. But what's so interesting is that the 9 of Swords came out underneath the Ace of Swords. So it's like, you know the truth. You know that this is going to go well. It's going to work out in your favor. But there's anxiety. And it kind of feels like, it just feels like the last minute jitters is kind of how this feeling where you've done so, it's like I was getting like almost like a dance recital. It's kind of how this is coming through. Like, you've done a lot of preparing for it. You've done a lot of practice. You've done a lot of like you've spent hours learning and practicing and whatever it is. And it's like, I feel like there's just a lot of worry about, like, before you, like the night before the dance recital, for example, that somebody else is going to take your place. That was the intuition, that, like, the download that I was getting. And I feel like that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I'm seeing it as being very sort of like a harmonious kind of completion, or like whatever it is with the 6 of Swords, right? That talks about going into calmer waters, because this came out right after the 9 of Swords. So it's, to me, talking about like really getting control out of your sort of mental space, right? Soothing that sort of anxiety, like perhaps just like telling yourself that you absolutely are moving in the right direction. Like you're not, I feel like any sort of anxiety that's coming up now is just like kind of last minute jitters, is kind of how this is feeling. But then you have the World, which means that you are completing some sort of cycle. It could be completing some sort of cycle in terms of how you're thinking, or that kind of thing. And what's interesting here is that you have like this combination of cards that came out, which was the 7 of Cups, the Emperor, and the King of Pentacles, because I kind of feel like, especially with the Emperor coming out, that's you, right? I feel, because I feel like that's talking about, like, whatever this transformation was with Phoenix, that feels like a past event, right? Like, you've already gone through that. It was in order to upgrade you, in quotation marks, into the Emperor, right? To, like, so that you can embody this Emperor energy, right? Which is so interesting, because this is talking about feminine energies, and it's like your feminine energies, your personal feminine energies. We're trying to get you to become the Emperor in your masculine energy, if that makes sense. And I feel like I feel like this King of Pentacles is perhaps a past version of yourself, right? So you were the King of Pentacles, but now you're the Emperor. But there may also be this sort of confusion with the Seven of Cups of, like, again, perhaps worried that there might be some sort of King of Pentacles that's in the picture, is kind of how this is feeling. But I feel like it's like, this is just a past version of yourself that you're trying to sort through, because it is coming through with the Seven of Wands, which is talking about defending yourself from energies that you don't want. So it could be that you're trying to fight off a past version of yourself that's causing that's what's causing confusion, because the Emperor is all about control, right? Control, defense, protection, all of that. So there could also be this I feel like it's more so just talking about, like, because the Seven of Wands talks about after the Six of Wands. So after you've been successful at something, you kind of have to defend your territory or your status, or, like, the thing that you've gained. And so it might just be something like that, where it's like, you are the Emperor already. You are on the throne, whatever that means. You've returned to Pride Rock, and now you're defending your territory, is kind of how this is feeling. I don't know why it's coming through with such masculine energies in this reading today, because I feel like it's like your feminine energies are already balanced. I would have nothing to say if I were to do a reading focused on that. It's kind of like your feminine energies are wanting you to take action now, because it's like your feminine energies are good. There's nothing there for you to sort of work on or improve or, like, fix or whatever. It's like you're good there. You don't have to worry about that. It's like actually now just moving, because this is the Page of Cups into the Knight of Cups. So it's kind of like the page, of course, well, that's just coming through as the feminine energy. Your feminine energy, in terms of, like, your emotional state, let's say, feels very confident and sure and secure. And it's like the issue may just be in terms of, like, actually acting on that, moving towards the things that you want, or whatever it is. Fill in the blank for whatever that is. And then you have here the Two of Pentacles and the Ace of Pentacles, which because I feel like, again, with it coming through with the feminine energy, I feel like you have a lot there already, Taurus. You have a lot, is kind of how it's feeling. You have more than your hands full with, in terms of your feminine sort of abundance, or however you want to phrase that. Your ability to receive, right? Your ability to soothe, to nurture, all of that is good with you. And it's kind of like, well, now you actually have to do something with that, because with the Ace of Pentacles, it's talking about an offer, and it could be something like making an offer towards this one. It's a really interesting energy. Okay, and then these three cards, which is interesting. You have here the Tower, the Ace of Cups, and the Moon, which is interesting because it's feeling like I just feel like, Taurus, that, like, I feel like you're not seeing how abundant you are, is kind of how this is feeling with the Ace of Cups in the middle, because both the Tower and the Moon are very challenging energies. But it's kind of like, I feel like you've done, especially with the two of Pentacles, because normally this card talks about, like, balancing two aspects. So it's kind of like you in the middle with all of this love are sort of balancing perhaps two very difficult energies maybe, but you're absolutely excelling at it is kind of how this is feeling. So there was this other thing that happened to me yesterday, which I feel like is part of your reading, where it's like I had to go to the pet store to get some stuff for my dog. And then I just sort of took a walk around and went into like the aquarium section and the reptiles just to sort of look, because I've been wanting a pet snake for a really long time, as an example. And then I saw this snake there that was just absolutely gorgeous. It was so beautiful, right? It was all of this energy, right? All of this sort of like, anyways, I don't even know how to describe this. It was such a beautiful snake. And I could see that it was like, it caught my attention because it was moving around in its cage. And I just felt like it was just like there was this connection there between me and that animal. It felt so wordless, but, well, obviously it was wordless, but it was absolutely drawing me in. And it was kind of like, but I feel like that's almost like the start. It's like, because it's this energy, because if I were to actually make that commitment of like getting that snake, right? Like having a pet snake, it would require me to walk away from some aspect of my 10 of Pentacles stability, because the place where I am now would not support that decision. I wouldn't be able to have that animal in my current living circumstances. So I would have to, in order to go towards that thing that I want, right? I would have to find a new place to live, right? That would be the main condition. That would be the only way in which I could support that animal, like another pet. I would have to move house, right? So it's kind of like there's something that you want, but it would require a really big sort of transition or change. You would have to walk away from something. And I feel like that's why you're sort of in the deliberation stage, which is perfectly fine and normal, right? It's like you're balancing this potential tower moment and the moon energy, which is perhaps illusion or separation or just fear, right? Balancing fear and potentially a tower for yourself, right? Because perhaps you would have to move, or you would have to make a big lifestyle change, let's say, perhaps, maybe. But it's like the Ace of Cups is what's driving you forward. It's like all of this love energy, all of this like unconditional love energy is what's pushing you forward to like return to Pride Rock, right? Because as much as, for example, Simba, as much as he had developed or like grown this family in this sort of oasis that he was in to heal that sort of past heartbreak, it's like it was time for him to go home. He had to return home and sort of claim what was his, that kind of thing. I feel like that's kind of what your energy is feeling like, where it's like you're wanting to do this, you're wanting to move towards it, and it's kind of just like keeping yourself steady so that you can actually do the thing or make the action when the time comes, if it's not right now. Because it does feel like it's soon. It feels like it's like last minute jitters is kind of how this is feeling. But it's like you are moving towards this and it's going to be fine. It's going to work out great. I'm seeing this as all just being a really positive energy. So Taurus, I'm going to leave it there for your message. I'm going to move to the extended. If you're interested in that, link is in the box below. If this message resonated with you, please consider subscribing, liking, leaving a comment. Thank you so much for sharing your energy with me, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.